Barney and Jess, we have a new Prime Minister. It's Boris Johnson. What are your initial reactions?
I am quite terrified, actually. From what I've heard about his homophobic, racist, what else is he? Xenophobic, essentially, remarks, and he's very much parallels to Trump. In that sense, I'm not very pleased.
So as a young person living in Britain, this really worries you, does it, Jess?
Yeah. I'm also not very pleased about the situation. It's also quite worrying that we've not voted for him in as well. So I'm just hoping that a general election is pushed for quite soon, probably by public needing that, and hopefully we'll get a proper vote in soon.
What do you think needs to happen? Do we need Brexit? Do we need to remain in the EU? If we have a general election, where might your vote go?
I personally think that we do need to remain in the EU. I do not know why. Well, even if we do go out of the EU, I don't get why essentially 50% of the country said yes and 50% of the country said no, and yet we're going for a no-deal Brexit, which will just essentially I think will bring a lot of chaos.
Are you worried for your future?
Yeah, we're never going to be able to buy a house. Never.
So it doesn't look good at the moment. It's not just buying a house, is it? It's also your political future as well. It's about the man in charge of our country. Personality-wise, is he at least a bit more entertaining than Theresa May?
I don't think a Prime Minister should be entertaining, to be honest.
And with Mike King, Mike, you used to work with Boris at City Hall, so
Yes.
You know him really quite well.
I would say so. I saw him on an almost daily basis for 6 years. That's time enough to get to know people pretty well. And I have to say that during that time I found him a very affable person, both to staff and to visitors alike. He was never, in my view, racist to anyone. We never heard it, we never saw it, and the staff, non-white staff, really quite liked him. I think that speaks for itself.
So as a person, you're a fan of Boris. What about his work? Do you follow what Boris does, and are you a fan of what he's doing?
Indeed, I followed him obviously since I've left. I'm supportive of his work with Brexit. Obviously, it did make a difference. And it's nice to have somebody who is now at Downing Street who is actually positive about what they are doing and believes in the mission. And he's got some pretty good people around him from what we're hearing. He's probably got more supportive people, less distractive people, if I may use that expression, about the Remain crowd who are with the May government. Things are starting to look better. We hope they stay that way.
Can I ask you, in your time at City Hall, when Boris made a gaffe, and he did make a few gaffes whilst he was there, how was that received? Did he ride it out and try and sort of bulge it out? Was he embarrassed about it? Were people shaking their heads? How did people react when perhaps things didn't go his way?
People in politics have got to have a thick skin, and he's got one. He has to have. Some very unpleasant things have been said about him by people who should know better. Cabinet ministers who now say they're all for him, who said they wouldn't ride home in a taxi with him, not the kind of people I'd like around me. So for that reason, the fact that he's able to slough off unpleasant remarks is something everybody had to do. Look at what Churchill went through. Even during the war, people were saying the most appalling things about him. He had to shrug it off. So I see no real difference.
And is there a memory that you have of Boris at City Hall? Did he know your name? Did he greet you?
He did, and he was good to the staff, like I say. I'll always remember for that. Another thing I will respect him for greatly is that whenever we had an armed forces event, he was always the most supportive person there. The troops certainly got a welcome from him. He was very good at that, I have to say.